Hey, this is John. Welcome back to Modern Old School Developer. In the last episode, we started making automated tests for our front end. We're going to keep working on that in this episode. So we checked that our movie list was being loaded and that our actors were being loaded. Between episodes, I made 3 more tests, one to make sure studio, series, and categories were being loaded. They're mostly the same as what we did for actors and movie list, but for categories, instead of using option, I used checkbox. Other than that, they're all pretty much the same. I did want to mention one more thing. When I copied this from the other test I was doing, I forgot to explain about the context delay. This simulates a delay in your response, so it'll actually wait 150 milliseconds before it returns a response to the fetcher. So this is a way to simulate network delay or a query taking more time. So that's what the context delay is about. So what are we going to do in this episode? Well, I see that when we first load the page, our form elements are disabled. Let's go ahead and make sure that is the case. Let's start by checking these update and remove buttons. So I'll go over here to our testing playground and I'll hit the button. And let's look for this. So we can look for get role and we can look for button, and name is update or name is remove. All right, that sounds easy enough to do. Let's go back into here. So let's make a new test. It disables the form elements on page load. All right, we'll make a new function. This one I don't think needs to be async because we're not waiting for those buttons to be disabled. They should be disabled as soon as the page loads. So let's get one of those buttons. Let's say the remove button is going to be screen.getByRole. It's a button, and the name property is going to be remove. All right, that should be our button. And let's expect that remove button to be enabled. Now I want it to be disabled, but I'm making the opposite test right now. That way, when it fails, I'll be more confident that it's working when I change it to be the correct test. Let's go ahead and save that. And there we go. We're running our test suite again. And it failed. So why did it fail? If we scroll to the top, you'll see there's an error. Unable to find an accessible element with the role button and the name remove. So what's up with that? We've got a remove button. Why is it not like that? Well, notice they used remove with the case insensitive regex, and I used remove all capitals, which is what I saw in there. But actually, it's not either of those. It's capital R, lowercase emove. So we probably do want to search with the regex case insensitive for this one. So let's go ahead and do that. So rather than making an exact thing, we'll say it is remove case insensitive. All right, try that again. All right, there we go. So this time we got the received element is not enabled. Perfect. That is what we expect. So we want to make sure that is disabled though. So let's go ahead and fix our test to be disabled. And once we run that, hopefully our test works then. And there we go. Now it passes. Cool. So now I can make a similar test for the other button. So there we go. There are both tests there. I get each button, update and remove, and I expect them to be disabled. And all of our tests pass. I didn't put those in different tests because this is a test we're looking for. It will fail if any of these fails, and that's okay. So let's see what else we might want to do. We could check for the rest of the form to be disabled. So we could go find something like this input button here. So that is get by role text box. And that's an interesting one because we've got more than one text box. Let's see what happens when we try to do that. So let's go turn that off. And let's look for the text box. So let's say expect screen get by role. And our role is text box. We won't have a name because there's no name there. And we'll say to be disabled. So, and I'll make it enabled to make sure our test fails. So let's go ahead and do that. and it failed. But I don't think it failed where I thought it was going to fail. So what happened there? Let's see here. Found multiple elements with the role text box. We didn't find one element. We found two elements. This one and this one. So what do we do? Well, there are lots of things we could do, but we don't need to do anything special for these because we don't care about the individual fields. What I care about is that both of them are disabled. So we need to get not one of them, but all of them. So to do that, let's go ahead and use a different query. So let's pull this out and let's say console text boxes equals, and we're going to take screen get by role, but we're not going to say get by role, we're going to say get all by role. And then we can simply do a for each on this to make sure everything is there. So let's say that should be const, not console. Okay, so text boxes dot for each, and we're going to run something on each one of those. So for each text box, I want to say we expect text box to be enabled. There we go. Now let's see if that works. So we got a text box, but the element is not enabled. Well, seems like we at least have the text boxes then. That seems like it ought to be okay. We'll change our test back to be disabled, and that should work okay. All right, what else do we have on our form? We've got the studio selects. We could check all of those, although if I get all of the studio selects, if I get all of the select box on the page, this one's not going to be disabled. All of the other ones are. So now we do need to find out what's going on, or we do need to disambiguate between this list and the rest of them. So how are we going to do that? Let's see if this helps us. If I go look for this, that's combo box, that's a thing. This is a list box. Well, it looks like a list box is different than combo box. That still doesn't help us because this list box is blank or disabled, and this list box is not. So we can definitely check our combo boxes, and that's okay, but our list box is not going to be possible. So what could we do about that? So there are several solutions to our problem. One thing could be adding something to our movie list select box to disambiguate it from the rest. We could add a special data value which would give us something to match on. And that's one option. But I think what we'll do instead is work on this Formik context. So remember, we used main page last time rather than creating a new Formik context. But maybe it would be helpful if we could supply a temporary Formik context to test the initial state of a component where we don't care about the Formik context. So why don't we see if we can do that? So over in main page, we've got these initial form values. We could use these to make a new Formik context. So let's go do that. Let's go into state and let's make a new file here, and we'll call it formik.ts. And we'll go back over here. Let's cut these values out, and let's put an export on this. And there we go. We've got Formik now. We need to import this type, so let's do that. And that should be good. So now over here, all I need to do is import initial values from our Formik. But I don't want to call it initial values. I want to call it main page initial values. There we go. So now we need to supply that to our Formik context down here. So rather than initial values, we'll say main page initial values. So now we have a way to get our values outside of this component. So all we have to do is find some way of making this Formik wrap around our individual components. So let's go back here and let's keep these tests here for the moment, but let's move into our component folder and let's make something for movie list. Let's make something called movielist.test.tsx. And I'm kind of torn on which one I like. I kind of like having the test be alongside these, but one other thing people tend to do is make a folder called tests. Or is it test? I think it is test. And then put all their tests in there. So when you have a lot of tests, it may be easier to move all the tests inside this folder. So I'll put this here for now. So let's go back to main page, and what do we need to do there? Well, first, let's just copy everything we have over here, and we'll do that again. But we don't want to get the main page anymore. Instead, we're going to import movie list. There we go, and that's what we're going to render from now on. Let's go to all of our tests, and let's go ahead and comment all these out for now. And instead of main page, we're going to render movie list. So again, this isn't going to work until we get our Formik context, but we should be able to make a Formik context if we had those values. So why don't we do that? Let's start off by saying we need this to go up one. And I think all we have to do now is make a new Formik context. So let's make a new component and wrap that around. So let's say const mock movie list equals a function, and that's going to be just returning a value. So it's going to be a Formik, and then we'll put the movie list inside there. Okay, that should be good if we supply the rest of our values from there. So all we need to do is get these things. So let's do that. All right, we need to import our main page initial form values. Now what are we going to do about onSubmit? I don't have one of those right now, so how will we handle that? Well, we don't care about the actual function because we're never going to use it in this test. So Jest has a way to do that. All we have to do is do jest.fn. And this will make a new function we can supply to our onSubmit handler. And I believe that should work. So now we have a mock movie list which wraps our component in a Formik provider. So all we have to do now is change this to mock movie list, and we should be able to render this. So let's make one test here. Let's do just this one. Renders the movie list without errors. And let's see if that is true. Okay, they all passed. So both of our components render now. Perfect. Now we can test individual pieces of our movie list. So let's do some of that. So we rendered our movie list. We've got our Formik context that isn't really doing anything right now, which is great. And we want to check that the movies in the movie list after loading. So why don't we test this as well? So that should be good, and we should get Beauty and the Beast. That should be a thing that actually happens. So if I save that, yep, that still works. Our test still passed. If we change the name to make sure it should be wrong, yep, there we go. We do not have that movie list. All we have right now is Beauty and the Beast. We don't have Beauty and the Beast. So we know our test is working. So this will let us test our components at a smaller level. So this is more of a unit test. So let's see, what else do we need to do here? Let's look at our component. Well, we know we've got this movie list, and really, there's nothing else we need to test right here. All of our other tests are for these individual components, and they'll be a lot easier to find now that we don't have to look for everything else on this page. We will now be able to test the actor selector and get this one list box and test that that's disabled. And that's what we'll be doing next. We'll be refactoring this to move our test out of main page. And we will come back to main page, but that's going to be for more of our integration test, which tests multiple component interaction. And we don't need all of this dummy state for our mock either. We can get rid of everything except the movies endpoint. And we will refactor it to use this in a better manner as well at some point. But for now, I'm just going to copy paste it right over into here. All right. So there we go. We've got our Beauty and the Beast endpoint, and that should be fine. And that test should be good. So, yep, okay. So why don't we make another one for our movie form? So we'll go into this, and we'll just copy paste this, and we're going to call it movie data form.test.tsx. So what is that going to do? Well, our movie form is this thing right here. So let's get that working. So we need to change our movie list. We don't want that anymore. What I want is the movie data form. And that comes from our main page. You can see it's that. So we want to render that. And we're going to mock this component again. So we'll come back to movie list and we'll copy our mock element. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we'll put it right down here somewhere. And in this case, we're going to call it a mock movie data form. And we'll copy this and make this just a regular form. And that should be all good for this. So we will copy this and replace it over here. Didn't need two of those, obviously. All right, let's get rid of that. We'll place it there. So there we go. Now we should render the movie data form without errors. And we'll leave this test in here, but this is going to fail because we're not going to find an option with Beauty and the Beast in it because we're on the movie data form, which isn't going to have something like that right now. So let's save that, and let's go see what happens. Yes, as expected, we are getting some things in here that shouldn't be happening because we're not mocking all of our endpoints. And also, we do not have some of these options. So in our component, we didn't find one. So yeah, obviously, we're not going to have that. Let's go back to our main page and let's get that. Didn't mean that, I meant this, the test thing. So let's go ahead and see that our series and studios are in here. So let me cut this and put it over here in our movie data form. So we'll remove this and we'll delete these things. And then I need to grab more of the mock data. We need to have our series and our studios over here. So let's go ahead and grab those. Let's copy these. And then we'll put those over here. And we don't need the movies, so we can get rid of those for now. All right. So that should be good. And I should be finding a Guardians of the Galaxy option for our series and one for our studios. So let's go see what happened with that. Okay, we've got some more little errors. That's probably because of the main page test. Not going to worry about that right now. We can see this is mostly fine. It's trying to intercept movies, but again, shouldn't matter for this. So we also wanted to test that those text boxes are empty or disabled. So let's go bring that test over here as well. So that was this right here. Let's go cut that and go back over here. We'll put these in here. And we have our buttons and our text boxes, and those should be disabled. And the only thing left is to make sure that the studio and series combo boxes are disabled as well. We've got two of those. So let's say const combo boxes equals screen.getAllBy role, and it should be combo box. And then combo boxes dot for each combo box expect combo box to be disabled. Okay, so there we go. There is all of our tests for our movie data form. And let's see here. What did we find here? All right, so the combo boxes do not exist on first page load, and that makes sense. Until you load the series or studios, they wouldn't be there. So actually, we need to wait for those to appear, just like we're waiting for our data. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So rather than doing this get all by role, we do need this to be async now, and we'll do find all by role, and we will await this to happen. So now it should work. And there we go. All our tests are passing now. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's move on to making the actor selector. So we'll make a test for that as well. So let's make a new file, actor selector.test.tsx, and we'll just copy everything that's in here for now. And we'll go back into our main page test. And let's copy our actors thing. So that is only this right now, I think. So we can go make that our sole test. We will uncomment this and delete all those tests for the movie role. So there we go. We need to mock our actor selector. So let's change this name to mock actor selector. There we go. And this should be actor selector as well. So let's change this to actor selector, and that should be all good. We still have our Formik state, so that looks good. So I believe that should all work now as well if we had actors in here instead of series and studios. So let's go ahead and delete this. And let's go to our main page one, and let's get, what do we have here? I need some actors. Let's get some actors. So let's get this, and we'll go to actor selector and put that as our REST endpoint, and let's hit save. Okay, all of our tests are still passing. Great, that looks good. So is there anything else we need to test on our actor selector? Yes, we need to test that list box, and there's only going to be one of them on first load, so we can do a get all by name. Now, the selector will probably not be there until we have our list of actors, so we'll probably do that find by query again. So let's go ahead and try that out. Over in here, let me copy this real quick, and we'll put it at the very bottom. Okay, so we don't have this or this. We have this right here. And we don't have more than one, so all we have to do is say expect, await, screen, find by role. This is a list box. All right, that should be that. And then we'll say to be disabled. All right, that should be good for that test. All right, if we go do that, and there we go. We have run all of our test suites and they all pass. Perfect, just what I wanted to see. So that takes care of everything but the category selector. So we'll make one for that as well. And we're gonna copy the actor selector right now. All right, we need our categories. So let's grab this endpoint. There we go. And in actor selector, what are we doing here? Let's move this over here. There we go. We've got that now, so that looks pretty good. And I think that should be good, although we don't have any list boxes. We have these check boxes. So let's go take the test from over here that we have. We are looking for our, not our movie list, but our categories exist. Let's cut that and paste this test over here. And we'll uncomment this. And we're going to delete all of these. Am I in the wrong place? Yes, I am. Hang on. Not there. I meant here. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. Here is our categories. And let's go ahead and delete this. And then we need to change our actor selector to be a category selector. Category selector. Okay, so I think that takes care of everything for that. So what else are we missing here? We won't have any list boxes. We're going to have something more like our option box that are disabled. We need to look for all of these check boxes and make sure that they're all disabled. So let's see if we can find some. So we'll go back to movie data form, and let's copy this test here. All right, so we can get rid of this test. And what do I want to do? I don't have these buttons. I do have boxes, though. I have checkboxes. We're going to get all by role checkbox, and then we can put that in here. Checkbox to be disabled, and get rid of that. And I think that should be good for our category selector as well. Some of them are failing. Interesting. I see that we're getting all by role. That wasn't quite right. This should have been an async thing. So let's see here. This function is async. So let's await find all by role and see if that works. There we go. Now it's passing. So let's go ahead and go back to movie list here. And I'm thinking for now, we're just going to delete this, and we will rework that in a little while. So let's go ahead and delete this. We no longer have that test. And if we go back, we should see fewer warnings now, but we don't. So what's up with that? Well, it's a little unclear to me why it's pulling things from these components that shouldn't be looking for them. So I'm uncertain why that's happening. But let's abstract some of this setup server thing and see if we can get that to work. So why don't we abstract all of our little test endpoints into one place, and then we can pull them into all of our mock servers. So let's see what happens if we do that. Let's see, should we put it right in here? I guess for now we can. So let's say endpoints.ts. So let's go in here, and let's say that we have const MSW endpoints. It's going to be an array of those endpoints. So here is our actor endpoint. Put a comma in there. And then over here, let's see, that's category. That may have been one problem right there. What else do we have? Here are our categories, which shouldn't be in the actor selector. Well, this is probably what's going on. I have messed up a lot of these things. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's see here. And that explains why the tests aren't failing. I did not mock our server correctly, and we're getting things from the actual backend because I left that CORS change in there. All right, well, let's do that for now. So there is actors and categories. And what else do we have? Here are series and studios. Let's go ahead and grab those. And what else do we have? Over in movie list, we've got our movies. So we can get that as well. We'll put that right in here and put a comma in there. And all we have to do now is import REST, and it should be okay. And we can have this one function, our backend function, in one place as well. We'll put that right here. And then all we need to do is import REST from MSW. And I think that should solve all of our problems. Yeah, there we go. So let's hit save on this endpoint, and let's pull those in to everywhere. So what I want to do is I want to import MSW endpoints from endpoints. And then we will simply make our server with the spread of MSW endpoints. And I think that should be okay. So let's go ahead and copy this to all of our things. And finally this. And I think that should all be good. So if we go in here now, let's see what happens. Let's make sure we run them all again just to make sure everything's okay. Hey, all of our tests are passing now. So I think that is all good. All right. I'm certain this episode is running long, but I hope that you learned something about making individual unit tests for your individual components, and we will come back next time and do some more work. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Help the channel out. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.